at Turner FF_PT on Twitter. Make sure you're following him for all the injury news and for everything else fantasy football related. Ethan, let's talk about Josh Allen. We saw him leave the game against New England last week. He went to the back. Sounds like it was a head injury, maybe a concussion. Matt Barkley came in and finished out the game. What's going on with Josh Allen so far?
It does look like Allen is dealing with a concussion. He's in the protocol right now. Like you said, he left the game as of Thursday night. He still hasn't cleared that protocol, so that is definitely a concern going into the weekend. I think we're seeing more and more of teams being a little bit more cautious with the protocol and with concussions in particular. We see these cases with people like Jordan Reed who have had multiple concussions. And teams are being a little bit more cautious now that it's more mainstream on how they respond to these types of things. But this is really going to come down to the wire for Josh Allen. Franchise quarterbacks don't tend to miss very many games because of concussions, but if the symptoms are lingering, very likely that we see Allen sit. Matt Barkley is his backup, not really fantasy relevant against a pretty good Tennessee pass defense. But it is worth noting that you might be without Allen in those super flex leagues.
Sorry about that. So that's something for us to monitor then. Matt Barkley, again, like you stated, not fantasy relevant in a tough matchup for the most part. So even if Josh Allen does miss, it doesn't seem like his backup is someone that you want to poach off the waiver wire. But if you have Josh Allen, you've probably been using him these first 4 weeks. And so it's going to be something to monitor moving forward on game day. Let's go to Mitchell Trubisky. And this one's really interesting because it sounds like he's traveling with the team to London. And so I don't know if that means that, what that means for him and this injury. Tell us more about the injury here, Ethan, and whether or not you expect that he's going to be able to suit up.
Trubisky is dealing with a dislocated shoulder, and some reports are even reporting a partial labrum tear. This is not his throwing shoulder. If it was, we definitely would not expect him. It's his opposite shoulder. I don't personally expect him to make the quick turnaround, but it is interesting that he's traveling with the team. Again, that doesn't guarantee that he's going to play on Sunday. I really don't expect that to be the case. It just seems like a very quick turnaround for him. The good news, again, is that this is not his throwing shoulder, so it's not going to be something where I expect him to miss a ton of time, probably just this week, and then he'll be back. Also interesting to me that he had a very similar injury on this side last year. So he's actually dealt with this 2 years in a row now where this has popped out of place and had to be relocated. Kind of one of those things that personally I wouldn't be surprised if we see him have off-season surgery to kind of address these recurring dislocations. Once you dislocate, you're much more likely to dislocate again. If he doesn't get this corrected, it's going to be something he deals with for the majority of his career. And again, now we're already seeing some labral tears, possibly. That labrum, we've seen it with Andrew Luck. It doesn't take a ton of wear and tear on that thing to really wear it out to the point where the shoulder is a cause of pain for a long, long time. So again, luckily for Trubisky, it's not his throwing shoulder, but I would not be surprised if we see him get some offseason surgery to correct it. As far as when we see him next, teams on bye in week 6. Again, that plays into why I don't expect them to really rush him back this week. Give him this week off, give him a full week to recover, and then another week to practice and come back week 7 much stronger.
It seems like a good time for them to be able to bring him back after this London game. Let Chase Daniel start, have a bye, and then bring him back. That seems like a really good scenario there. So I kind of agree with your thought process there. So hopefully the Bears kind of look at that too. Let's go to the next guy, John Ross. Man, this was a guy who started out the season. I mean, he was hot. He was putting up fantasy numbers. He was, I think, at one point after week 2 or 3 of the season, he was the wide receiver 1 in a lot of weeks. So John Ross's injury, the Bengals offense slowed down the past couple weeks, and John Ross kind of felt that. But his injury seemed like it was pretty significant. Ethan, do we have any update on what the injury is?
So Ross ended up on the IR. He's dealing with a sternoclavicular joint injury. So we talked a lot about this with Tyreek Hill, actually. It doesn't sound like Ross is dislocated, but again, I don't know that for sure. All I know that is the part of his shoulder. Again, it's actually closer to his chest, but it's still considered part of the shoulder because it's the clavicle. That's the part of his shoulder where the injury is occurring. So it's something going on there. Again, it sounds like it was pretty significant because they put him on the IR. Nothing really else has come out as far as the extent of the damage. He's droppable in season long. We're at the point now heading into week 5 where if guys end up on the IR, very unlikely you ever get to see them again from a fantasy perspective. And even then, I don't expect him to return in 8 weeks. So, yeah, Ross is droppable in season long leagues. AJ Green also sidelined. So it's looking like Tyler Boyd and Auden Tate are going to be the 2 kind of primary pass catchers. I'm actually investing a little bit more into Tyler Eifert as well. I think he could be kind of a sneaky tight end play in a position group that is really hurting as a whole right now. So Tyler Eifert, Auden Tate, if you want to go really deep, and Tyler Boyd are kind of the 3 guys I'd be looking at. Hopefully Joe Mixon too, because he needs it.
Yeah, he certainly does. You're right. You're right about that. They've got some plus matchups coming up too. So looking at some of these Bengals is something you wouldn't think that you would do, but boy, with these matchups and with that Ross injury that you told us, him being on IR and probably not coming back this year, Auden Tate. Man, whenever anybody says that name, it puts a smile on my face. I was a guy who went to bat for him last year, even after a tough combine, but he really showed out well on tape. And so Auden Tate actually maybe getting a chance here in Cincinnati to put up some numbers just makes me smile. I can tell you that much. I know it's probably not going to be for a long time here with AJ Green expected back, but still, I like seeing Auden Tate getting his name thrown about there in fantasy circles. So that's always fun. Let's go to the next injury. We have Marlon Mack, and this was a little disappointing. I think a lot of people expected some decent numbers out of him against the Oakland Raiders. The Raiders kind of took control last week of that game, and we didn't really hear a lot moving forward from that game. And that offense for the Colts, it started coming alive a little bit towards the end of the game, but really didn't do what a lot of people thought it would. So what's going on with Marlon Mack? What's going on with his injury? I know he left late in that game, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, he left in the 4th quarter. He's dealing with an ankle sprain. He hasn't practiced yet this week. Not a good sign. Again, you're looking for them to get some type of limited practice in. 2 things we're looking for right now is one, if he flies with the team on Saturday, that's going to be pretty much the end all be all. If he flies, it's going to be a game time decision. If he doesn't fly, he's not going to play. If he gets limited practice in on Friday, that's a good sign as well. So if he doesn't practice at all on Friday, I don't really expect him to play. Jordan Wilkins and Naheem Hines are the 2 kind of guys behind him. I think both of them could be flex options in a game with a pretty high over under on the week. So again, I if I have to put me to the fire right now, Thursday night deciding Marlon Mack is probably not going to play. If he does, it's going to be a game time decision. So you're going to have to keep an eye on it.
That's always tough. That is where you need to follow Ethan on Twitter at eTurnerFF_PT. He is excellent at keeping you up to date on these injuries and what's going on with them as the week progresses. So that's you're a must follow there, Ethan, because I know that you're going to do that for us. And so let's go to the next injury here. We have Devin Singletary, guy who I'm high on, a young running back in Buffalo. Looks like Buffalo can run the ball pretty well. Frank Gore did really well in his absence, and Frank Gore is probably going to be the lead back moving forward, I would suspect. But Devin Singletary, in the limited amount of work that he got, looked really good before this injury. What can we expect from Devin Singletary? Can we expect him back this week?
So Singletary missed week 4 with this hamstring strain he's been dealing with for the last couple weeks. I'm not totally convinced that Frank Gore isn't like leeching his powers off of Devin Singletary because that guy is immortal at this point. Every time I'm like, Frank Gore, he's just a guy. He has a pretty good game. So again, we might be looking at possibly a fantasy vampire here with Frank Gore. But as far as Singletary goes, he does look like he's trending towards a return this week. I don't really expect him to carry the full workload. Especially if this game gets out of hand, if Josh Allen misses time. If he doesn't play, this could be a game that gets pretty ugly. That Tennessee defense can get on top of you in a hurry. So this could be one where even if Singletary does play, he just doesn't get enough touches to be effective.
Yeah, I could see that as well. It seems like maybe waiting and kind of seeing, how Devin Singletary's used, if he's worked back slowly, and what his role is going to be moving forward, might be the best option here. But it sounds like we can expect him, moving forward in our at least suiting up. So that's always good. Another injury, an alarming one, was James Conner. It wasn't too alarming because he did finish the game, but we see him listed on the injury report, and this is a big name that a lot of people have been relying on. He finally broke out on Monday night and really had a nice showing. So, what's going on with James Conner? Are we expecting him to suit up this week?
Yeah, that Sunday, he's dealing with an ankle injury, and I kind of expected him to miss some time, maybe miss a Wednesday, get back to it on Thursday, but he's missed 2 days now, Wednesday and Thursday. I think he plays just because we did see him come back. They wouldn't have brought him back if he wasn't feeling at least good enough to play. I think this is just going to be one of those weeks where, hey, give him a week off, let him rest so that we can have him again. I think the more concerning thing is how that offense kind of looked different to me. This, as a Steelers fan, it's kind of interesting to watch them working Jalen Samuels in a little bit more. He's throwing passes now, which is kind of weird. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but it is interesting to see them be more comfortable giving Samuels more of the workload. So if Conner is limited, he has a backup in Samuels that seems to be able to do quite a few things for that offense. So we'll have to see how they use him again this week. I don't know if they're going to keep doing this kind of trick play offense. It worked. As a Steelers fan, I don't really trust it long term, but it did seem to be effective. But they were also playing a pretty bad team in the Bengals, so probably not going to work against your good teams.
Yeah, you would expect that you're going to have to go to kind of a more traditional type of thing and doing what you do best. But Jalen Samuel did look very good in his opportunity that he got, so it is going to be something to monitor moving forward. That kind of how those guys are used between Connor and Samuel. But let's move on to the next injury. Christian Kirk. This was an injury. He went down, and didn't sound like it was going to be something that was going to keep him out for long. But the more we hear, the more it looks like he might miss a week or two. So, Ethan, is that about right? What is this injury, and about how long are we expecting him to miss?
Kirk's injury is kind of one of those that gets it gets kind of thrown under the rug a little bit because it was on the second to last play of the game, so you didn't see it. It didn't have the impact of, oh, well, he missed the rest of the game. He was out in the second quarter, missed the rest of the game. It's clearly serious because he didn't come back. He missed a play in the game. And so it kind of gets swept under the rug a little bit in the mainstream media because they don't really think about it too much. But the problem is that the team has come out a few times now this week and said, they thought this was a pretty serious injury when it first happened, possibly even season threatening. I don't know if that's them talking up the injury or more just or if they're being serious in that it's a legitimate injury. So it seems like it's pretty standard sprain to me. I expect him to miss this week and possibly return next week.
Okay, so we're not expecting him to miss too much time, so that's good. But this week we should make some backup plans. He's probably not going to be playing, and it sounds like he dodged a bullet from what the team thought. The team thought that this was serious, and I do remember the announcement that, hey, this isn't as serious as once thought, and I thought, oh, good, he's not going to miss time, and then it just seemed to the team kept putting out there that we really thought this was serious, and it's like, oh,
very strange. I know normally teams downplay injuries, so the fact that they were almost up playing it a little bit is kind of, I don't know what they saw that made them think like, man, this could be really serious. Maybe it was his reaction to pain or something like that, but just kind of interesting. Normally you hear it the other way where it's not really a big deal, and then they miss 4 weeks. But in this case, it was kind of the opposite, where it's like, we thought it was a huge deal, but then it ended up being not as serious.
Yeah, no, that was my takeaway too. Was it definitely seemed interested that the team was upplaying the injury. So I don't know that I've ever seen that. But let's move on here. We got some injuries that happened previously that we got some updates on. So let's go with T.Y. Hilton. This is the guy who missed last week. Obviously, a guy who people are relying on week in and week out to kind of be on their fantasy lineup. So we're all itching to get him back. Is he going to be available this week?
Hilton's dealing with a quad strain. Again, missed the week 4, like you said. He is practicing again this week, so I do expect him to play on Sunday, even if he's not quite at 100%. Again, you're concerned about him re-injuring it, similar to what happened the last time where he played in week 3, but then only played a half because he re-aggravated it. That's a concern, but with Hilton, he's one of those guys you just have to play if he's playing. So you're going to take the risk that he might not give you a full game. But I think they are expecting him to play the entire game. So yes, I do expect him to return this week.
Yeah, that's a tough one. If he's out there, you got to put him in your fantasy lineups, right? There, not many people are in a position where they have 3 better options, and they can kind of fade him even in a flex spot, depending on how deep your league is and how your starting lineups are set. But so let's move on to Damian Williams. This is an interesting one because when Damian Williams went out, it seemed like he was going to get the bell cow share of the carries, even in a timeshare there. And since then, we've had a couple of running backs come in and look pretty good in his absence. Is Damian Williams going to be back this week? It seems like he's practicing. And if he is back, what do you expect his role to be?
I do expect him to come back this week. He's dealing with a knee strain. He's practicing in full, which is always, that basically says he's ready to play. How well LaShawn McCoy is playing is really going to be one of those situations where I'm going to have to watch this game a little bit closer than I normally would, just because I don't know exactly how they're going to work him in. Is he going to play second to McCoy? The other Williams, Darrell Williams, has looked pretty capable as a goal line back. So, do they let Williams have some of those touches? Again, where does Williams fit in? Is he just a third down back now and McCoy's running in between the tackles? I don't know. It's kind of hard because I feel like McCoy is one of those guys that does a little bit of everything well. And Williams is, for the most part in his career outside of last year, has been pretty primarily just a pass catching back. So you're going to have to watch and see. I still think they go with McCoy with the majority of the workload, with Williams possibly getting, Damian Williams, that is, possibly getting worked in to some pass down situations. But if this team runs out ahead, I don't see any reason for them to push the issue with Damian Williams.
Yeah, that will be something to look for during that game for sure against the Colts during that one. And that one's going to be interesting too, because Sean McCoy is, like you said, he does everything, pretty well. He's good in the passing game too. So if they really, are concerned about Damian Williams, or they think that he could benefit from just an extra week off, it almost seems like they might work him back slowly. But this is something to monitor moving forward. Is how they're going to use these backs. So yeah, I'll be watching that one closely too, Ethan. Let's go to Mike Williams. This guy is a guy that again, if you have him on your roster, you're expecting to use him, more weeks than not in that passing offense. That's an offense that likes to throw the ball. At least so far they have. They get Melvin Gordon back, so that's interesting to see how they use that. But Mike Williams was he missed last week, and I don't know if we expect him back this week. What are you thinking?
Yeah, he's dealing with a back injury, and these are always kind of tricky because you don't hear a whole lot about what's going on with him. It's just, his back is hurt. Again, he's practicing in kind of a limited fashion. So to me, if he does play, which again, this is not a guarantee, very likely he does not play. But if he does, he's more of just a bye week kind of touchdown upside flex play. Because backs are one of those things that, it feels great in practice. And then as soon as you get hit one time in a game, you're like, oh, I tweaked my back again. And then you're out for the rest of the game. So I don't know if I trust Williams yet this week, but hopefully by next week, we can be a little bit more confident in playing him in fantasy.
Yeah, it seems like this is an interesting spot for the Chargers too, because with Melvin Gordon coming back, Austin Eckler is a fantastic receiving back. And if Mike Williams and we know Travis Benjamin, who was a lesser receiver, not owned by very many people, but those guys are probably going, are going to be either limited or out this game. It seems like if you have Melvin Gordon back there and you can lean on the running game and you can use Austin Eckler in the passing game with Keenan Allen and the tight ends that have actually been effective after Hunter Henry went down, you might be okay. You might be okay this one. So it'll be something to monitor with Mike Williams. And like you said, if he's out there, is he more of a decoy? Is he, you're just hoping for a red zone reception for the most part to make his day. So that will be something to monitor. Ethan, thank you so much again for covering the injuries with us. We appreciate it week in and week out. Again, make sure you're following Ethan at ETTurnerFF_PT on Twitter. He's going to keep you up to date on all these injuries as the week moves along. Ethan, thanks again for your time, bud.
Yep. Thanks for having me on.